I watched in frozen horror as my mother Linda reached for the wrong balloon. Time seemed to slow down as her fingers closed around the black one, the one we had specifically set aside as a memorial tribute. She smiled that sweet grandmother smile at the crowd and pulled the string. The balloon exploded. Black confetti and ashes rained down on everything. 50 guests gasped in unison. My wife Taylor stood there, 6 months pregnant, tears already forming in her eyes. And my mother just laughed. Actually laughed. Then she said those words that would haunt me for months to come. Oops! Well, you can always have another baby. The silence that followed felt like it lasted forever. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Taylor's hand went to her belly, protective, instinctive. Her mother Patricia moved toward her immediately, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. I stood there, paralyzed, watching black ash settle onto the pink tablecloths we had spent hours arranging. We had been planning this party for 3 months. Every detail mattered to us. This wasn't just any pregnancy. This was our miracle. After 2 miscarriages in 3 years, after spending over $30,000 on fertility treatments, after nights of Taylor crying herself to sleep, wondering if we would ever have a family, we were finally here. 6 months along. High risk, yes. The doctor had been clear about that. But we had made it this far, and we wanted to celebrate. Our home in suburban Ohio had never looked better. We had just moved in 8 months earlier, a modest 3-bedroom ranch with a backyard perfect for kids. Taylor had decorated every corner with pink and blue streamers, question marks, and tiny baby footprints. We had hired a photographer. We had catered food. We had invited everyone who mattered to us. Colleagues from my construction management job, nurses from Taylor's hospital, our closest friends, our families. The balloon setup had been Taylor's idea. 3 large balloons on the back patio. 1 pink, 1 blue, 1 black. The black one was special. It was filled with biodegradable ash and a small photo of the 2 ultrasound images from our lost babies. We were going to release it at the end of the party, a moment of remembrance before celebrating new life. The photographer knew which balloon was which. I knew which balloon was which. My mother had asked specifically about the balloons when she arrived. I looked at Linda now. She was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, but I could see it, that little smirk at the corner of her mouth. She caught my eye and shrugged, holding up her hands in that universal gesture of innocent mistake. "I'm so sorry," she called out to the crowd, her voice carrying that perfect tone of elderly confusion. "My eyesight isn't what it used to be. I thought that was the reveal balloon. Oh, I feel terrible." My sister Brenda appeared at my elbow. She's 4 years younger than me, 31 to my 35, and she's never been afraid to speak her mind. She grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, away from the stunned guests who were starting to murmur amongst themselves. "She did it on purpose," Brenda whispered urgently. "I saw her earlier, Ferdinand. She was over by the balloons, checking the labels. She knew exactly which one was which." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Of course she did. This was Linda's signature move. The plausible accident. The innocent mistake that somehow always caused maximum damage at the most important moments. 4 years ago, she wore a white dress to our wedding. Not ivory, not cream. White. A floor-length white gown with a train. When confronted, she claimed she thought it was appropriate for the mother of the groom. She said she didn't understand modern wedding etiquette. But I had seen her shopping for that dress. Had overheard her on the phone with a friend saying, "I'll show her who the real woman in Ferdinand's life is." 2 years ago, at our first Thanksgiving as a married couple, Linda ate Taylor's green bean casserole and then claimed to have a severe allergic reaction. We spent 6 hours in the emergency room. The doctors found nothing wrong. No allergy, no reaction. But Linda managed to tell every nurse, every doctor, every person in that hospital that her new daughter-in-law had tried to poison her. Taylor cried for days. 18 months ago, we asked Linda to store some furniture in her garage while we were between apartments. Antique pieces Taylor had inherited from her grandmother. 3 months later, when we came to pick them up, Linda said she had donated everything to Goodwill because she thought we didn't want them anymore since we hadn't picked them up right away. Taylor's grandmother's rocking chair, gone. 100-year-old dining table, gone. Linda's only comment was, "You should have been more clear about your timeline." Every time, there was an excuse. Every time it was technically explainable. Every time, Linda walked away consequence-free, while Taylor and I dealt with the wreckage. I turned back to the patio. Taylor had disappeared into the house. Patricia was ushering people toward the food table, trying to salvage something from this disaster. The photographer was packing up his equipment, clearly uncomfortable. Linda was now holding court with my father Richard and a few relatives, explaining her mistake with dramatic hand gestures and wounded eyes. I walked to the balloon setup. Brenda followed me. The two remaining balloons, pink and blue, bobbed innocently in the afternoon breeze. But something was wrong. I bent down and looked at the label system we had created. Small pieces of masking tape marked each balloon clearly. Pink for girl, blue for boy, black for memorial. The tape had been moved. I could see where the adhesive had pulled up and been restuck. The black balloon, the one Linda had popped, now had a piece of pink tape barely hanging on. The pink balloon had black tape residue on it. She had switched the labels. She hadn't made a mistake. She had deliberately destroyed our memorial to our lost children and ruined the gender reveal in one calculated move. "Brenda, look at this." I showed her the tape, the residue, the evidence of tampering. Her face went pale. "That's psychotic. Ferdinand, that's actually psychotic. She desecrated a memorial to your dead babies just to ruin a party?" I felt rage building in my chest, hot and dangerous. I stood up and marched back toward the patio where Linda was still performing her victim routine. Richard saw me coming and stepped slightly in front of her. Always the protector, always the enabler. "I need everyone to listen," I said loudly. The conversation stopped. All 50 guests turned to look at me. My mother didn't make a mistake. She deliberately switched the balloon labels. She knew exactly which balloon she was popping. That wasn't the gender reveal. That was a memorial for our children who didn't make it, and she destroyed it on purpose. Linda's face transformed. The sweet grandmother vanished, replaced by something cold and hard. "How dare you accuse me of such a thing? At a party? In front of all these people? I made an honest mistake and you're treating me like a criminal. Maybe I should leave if I'm not wanted here." "That's an excellent idea," came a voice from the doorway. Taylor's mother Patricia stepped forward. She's a retired school principal, 68 years old, and she doesn't suffer fools. "Linda, I think you should leave. Now." "This is my son's house," Linda shot back. "I have a right to be here." "Actually, it's Taylor and Ferdinand's house, and I'm telling you to leave," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "Get out." Richard put a hand on my shoulder. I shrugged it off. "Dad, you can stay or go, but she needs to leave. Now." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Linda gathered her purse, straightened her shoulders, and walked toward the door. But not before turning back to deliver one final blow. "You'll regret this. Family is everything, and you're throwing away your mother over a balloon. When that baby comes, you'll realize what you've done. But it might be too late by then." She left. Richard followed her, muttering apologies. Half the guests made excuses and left within the next 20 minutes. The party was over. I found Taylor in our bedroom, curled on the bed, sobbing. I held her while she cried, feeling completely helpless. This was supposed to be one of the happiest days of our lives. We were having a girl, a daughter. We should have been celebrating. Instead, my mother had turned it into another nightmare. "I can't do this anymore," Taylor whispered against my chest. "I can't keep dealing with her. The stress, Ferdinand. The doctor said stress could hurt the baby. What if this happens again? What if she does something at the hospital when I deliver? What if she never stops?" I didn't have answers. I just held my wife and watched our perfect day crumble into ashes, just like that black balloon. 2 days after the ruined gender reveal, I woke up to find Taylor in the kitchen, staring blankly at a cup of tea she hadn't touched. She had barely eaten since the party. Dark circles, shadowed her eyes. She looked fragile in a way that terrified me. "I have a doctor's appointment today," she said quietly. "Just a checkup. But I'm scared of what she'll say about my blood pressure." My phone buzzed. A text from Linda. "Can we talk? I think there's been a misunderstanding." I deleted it without responding. It was the 7th message since Saturday. Each one alternated between victim and aggressor. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," followed by, "You're being cruel to your own mother," followed by, "I just wanted to be part of the celebration." I made a decision. I'm calling a family meeting. Today. We're setting boundaries, real ones, and everyone needs to hear them at the same time. Taylor looked up at me with hope, mixed with fear. "You think that'll work?" "It has to." I texted Linda, Richard, and Brenda. Neutral location. Coffee shop downtown. 3 o'clock. Non-negotiable. To my surprise, everyone agreed. The coffee shop was busy with the after-lunch crowd. I got there early and claimed a table in the back corner. Brenda arrived first, gave me a hug, ordered a latte, and sat down with her arms crossed, ready for battle. Richard came next, looking tired and defeated. He ordered black coffee and wouldn't meet my eyes. Linda came last, dressed like she was going to church, complete with a string of pearls. She ordered nothing and sat down with a martyred sigh. "Thank you for coming," I started, keeping my voice level. "I want to be very clear about something. What happened on Saturday was not an accident. I have evidence." I pulled out my phone and showed them the photos I had taken of the tampered balloon labels. Someone switched these labels. The black balloon, which was clearly marked for memorial purposes, was relabeled pink. The pink balloon was marked with black tape residue. This wasn't confusion. This was deliberate. Linda opened her mouth to protest, but I held up my hand. "I'm not done. This is part of a pattern. The white dress at our wedding. The Thanksgiving allergic reaction that wasn't real. The furniture you donated without asking. You've been sabotaging my relationship with Taylor since the beginning, and I've let it slide because you're my mother. That ends now." "You can't prove any of this," Linda said coldly. "You're making wild accusations based on some tape residue. Maybe one of your guests moved things around. Maybe you labeled them wrong to begin with. You can't seriously be attacking me over a party mishap." Brenda leaned forward. "I saw you checking those balloons before the reveal. I watched you. You were over there for almost 5 minutes, looking at each one." "I was admiring the decorations," Linda snapped. "Is that a crime now?" "There's more," Brenda continued, looking at me. "Things you don't know about, Ferdinand. After you and Taylor got engaged, Linda sent her articles. Medical articles about maternal age and pregnancy risks. Taylor was only 28. Linda was trying to make her think she was too old to have healthy babies. My blood ran cold. Taylor had never mentioned this. And last year, Brenda went on. Linda went to the hospital where Taylor works. She told Taylor's coworkers that the pregnancy probably wouldn't last because of the previous miscarriages. She was spreading rumors designed to humiliate her. Taylor had told me she felt like people at work were treating her differently, whispering behind her back. I thought she was being paranoid from pregnancy hormones. She wasn't paranoid. Linda had been poisoning that well, too. I looked at my mother, really looked at her. I saw no remorse, no shame, just cold calculation and barely concealed rage that she was being called out. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You will have no contact with us until after the baby is born. No calls, no texts, no visits, no emails, no showing up at our house or our workplaces. After the baby is born, if and only if you can prove you've gotten professional help, we can discuss supervised visits. But right now, you are cut off completely." Richard finally spoke up. "Ferdinand, don't you think that's a bit extreme? Your mother made an error in judgment, but she's still your mother. Family should forgive family. Family should also not deliberately hurt family," I replied. "Dad, you've been making excuses for her my entire life. She does something cruel, and you smooth it over. That's why it never stops. Well, I'm stopping it. For my wife's health, for my daughter's safety." Linda stood up so fast her chair scraped loudly against the floor. Every head in the coffee shop turned toward us. "After everything I've done for you," she said, her voice rising. "I raised you practically alone, while your father worked 60-hour weeks. I sacrificed everything for you. I gave up my career, my dreams, my life. And this is how you repay me? By choosing some woman over your own mother? That woman is my wife," I said quietly, "and she's carrying my child. They are my priority, not you." "You'll understand when you're a parent," Linda hissed. "Children are the most ungrateful creatures on earth. You pour everything into them and they abandon you the first chance they get. That woman has turned you against me. She's manipulated you from day one, and you're too blind to see it." She grabbed her purse and stormed out. Richard hesitated, looked at me with something like pity, and followed her. Through the window, I could see them arguing in the parking lot. Linda was gesturing wildly. Richard was shaking his head. Then they both got in their car and drove away. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. That went about as well as I expected. Brenda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You did the right thing. She's going to retaliate, though. You know that, right? Let her try. What's she going to do?" I found out that evening. My boss called at 7 o'clock, just as Taylor and I were finishing dinner. His name is Greg, and he's usually pretty laid back, but his voice on the phone was tense, official. "Ferdinand, I got a strange call today. From your mother." My stomach dropped. "What did she say?" "She said you're having some kind of mental breakdown. She's worried about you making decisions on the job site, especially safety decisions. She asked if we'd noticed any erratic behavior. I told her we hadn't. But I wanted to check in with you. Is everything okay at home?" I closed my eyes. Of course. Attack my career. Make me look unstable. Greg, my mother and I had a family disagreement. She's upset that I've set some boundaries with her. What she told you isn't true. I'm not having a breakdown. I'm dealing with a toxic family member. There was a long pause. "I believe you, Ferdinand, but I have to take concerns about job site safety seriously. Why don't you take a few days off, sort out your family stuff, and come back Monday with a clear head? I'll mark it as personal days." It wasn't a suggestion. I was being forced to take time off because my mother had called my employer and lied about my mental state. "Sure, Greg. Thanks for understanding. And Ferdinand? If this continues, if she keeps calling here, we might need to involve HR. I don't want to, but I have to protect the company." After I hung up, I told Taylor what happened. She went pale. "She's trying to destroy your job. Ferdinand, this is insane. What if she calls the hospital and does the same thing to me?" I hadn't thought of that. But Taylor was right. If Linda would target my career, she wouldn't hesitate to target Taylor's nursing license. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to Taylor toss and turn beside me. Every creak of the house made me jump. I kept checking my phone, expecting more texts, more attacks, more destruction. At 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed. Not a text, an email. From Linda. The subject line read, "You'll regret this." I didn't open it. I forwarded it to my personal email for documentation and deleted it from my phone. But I couldn't delete the fear that was growing in my chest. My mother wasn't going to stop. She was going to escalate. I just didn't know how much worse it was going to get. The next morning, there was a knock at our door at 8:15. I answered it to find a man in a polo shirt with a county badge clipped to his belt. "Good morning. I'm Jason Miller with Child Protective Services. I'm here to follow up on a report we received regarding this address. May I come in?" My world tilted sideways. Child Protective Services. Linda had called CPS on us, for a baby that wasn't even born yet. I stood in the doorway, unable to form words. Jason Miller looked sympathetic, but professional. He was probably in his early 40s, with graying hair and kind eyes that had clearly seen too much. "Sir, I know this is unexpected, but I do need to come in and talk with you and your wife. We received a report of concerns about the safety of this home for an infant. I'm required to investigate." Taylor appeared behind me, her hand protectively on her belly. What concerns? Who called you? Jason pulled out a small notebook. The report was filed by Linda Morrison. She listed herself as the grandmother of the unborn child. She expressed concerns about potential drug use, domestic violence, and general instability in the home. That's all lies, I said, my voice coming out harder than I intended. My mother is upset that we've set boundaries with her. This is retaliation. I understand family dynamics can be complicated, Jason said gently, but I still need to do my job. May I come in? We let him in because we had no choice. For the next 2 hours, Jason walked through every room of our house. He checked the nursery we had been setting up, looked in our medicine cabinets, examined our refrigerator, asked about our work schedules, our financial situation, our support system. He interviewed Taylor and me separately, asking pointed questions about our relationship, any history of violence, any substance use. It was humiliating. Our home was immaculate. We had no drugs except prenatal vitamins, and some over-the-counter pain medication. There was no evidence of violence or instability. We had steady jobs, good income, health insurance, a savings account. We were doing everything right. Jason seemed to realize this pretty quickly. When we all sat back down in the living room, he closed his notebook and looked at us with genuine sympathy. I see this more often than you'd think, he said quietly. Family members using the system as a weapon. Everything here is fine. Your home is safe and well prepared for a baby. I'll file a report clearing you of all allegations. Relief washed over me. So, we're okay? Yes and no, Jason said carefully. The report will clear you, but it stays in the system for 5 years. If anyone makes another report during that time, this investigation will be referenced. It's like having a strike against you, even though you didn't do anything wrong. I'm sorry. That's just how the system works. After he left, Taylor sat down on the couch and started shaking. Not crying, just shaking like she was freezing. I wrapped a blanket around her and held her. 5 years, she whispered. We have a mark in the system for 5 years, because your mother filed a false report. It'll be okay, I said, not believing my own words. It's over. She tried, and she failed. But it wasn't over. That afternoon, while Taylor was resting, I decided to transfer some money from savings to checking to cover the time off work. I logged into our bank account and felt my heart stop. The balance was $73. We should have had $12,816 in that account. Our emergency fund. Money for the hospital bills. Money for Taylor's maternity leave. Money for everything we would need when the baby came. It was gone. I called the bank, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. The customer service representative pulled up the account. I'm seeing a withdrawal of $12,750 on Monday morning. It was made in person, at our downtown branch, by Linda Morrison. She's not authorized on this account, I said, my voice cracking. Actually, sir, according to our records, she's been an authorized user since the account was opened in 2016. Did you want to remove her from the account? 2016. When I was in college, Linda had helped me open my first bank account when I turned 20. I had never thought to take her off when I started using it for serious savings. It had never occurred to me that she would steal from me. Yes, remove her immediately. But what about the money she took? That's theft. I'm sorry, sir, but she was an authorized user. She had legal access to those funds. This is a civil matter, not a criminal one. You would need to pursue recovery through small claims court or a lawyer. I hung up and immediately called Taylor's mom, Patricia. I couldn't tell Taylor yet. Her blood pressure was already dangerous. This news might push her over the edge. Patricia arrived 30 minutes later. I showed her the bank statement. She sat down heavily, her face going red with anger. That woman is a monster, she said flatly. What are you going to do? I don't know. We needed that money. Taylor's going on maternity leave in 3 months. We have hospital bills, baby expenses. I can't get a loan that fast. And if we take Linda to court, lawyer fees will cost more than what she stole. Patricia reached for her purse. I can help with some of it. Maybe 3,000 or 4,000. It's not everything, but it's something. I felt tears burn behind my eyes. I can't take your money. You're not taking it. I'm giving it to my daughter and granddaughter. We'll figure out the rest. But Ferdinand, you need to tell Taylor. She's going to find out anyway, and it's better coming from you. I found Taylor in the nursery, folding tiny baby clothes. She looked up with a small smile that broke my heart. Hey, I was just thinking about names. What do you think about Hope? I know it's a little on the nose, but after everything we've been through, Hope is perfect, I said. But I need to tell you something. Her smile faded. What happened now? I told her about the bank account. I watched the color drain from her face. She sat down on the floor, right there among the baby blankets and stuffed animals, and stared at nothing. She took our baby fund, Taylor said in a voice I barely recognized. Flat, empty. She called CPS on us and stole $12,000. In the same week, Patricia is going to help. We'll figure it out. No. Taylor looked up at me, and I saw something broken in her eyes. No, we won't. Ferdinand, I can't do this. I can't fight your mother while I'm pregnant. The stress is going to kill this baby. I can already feel it. My chest hurts. My head hurts. I can't breathe right. We need to end this. We did end it. We set boundaries. That's not enough. Taylor's voice rose to a near scream. She's not stopping. She's going to keep coming at us until we give her what she wants. Maybe we should just let her be involved. Let her win. I don't care anymore. I just want my baby to be safe. Taylor, no. You can't mean that. I do mean it. Tears were streaming down her face now. If we have to let your mother see the baby to make this stop, then that's what we do. Because if this continues, I'm not going to make it to full term. I can feel it, Ferdinand. Something's wrong. I knelt down beside her and took her hands. They were ice cold. Let me handle this. Let me fix this. Please, don't give up. But I could see in her eyes that she already had. That night, Taylor started having contractions. We rushed to the hospital. The doctor, a calm woman named Susan, examined Taylor and hooked her up to monitors. The baby's heartbeat was strong, thank God, but Taylor's blood pressure was dangerously high. You're not in active labor yet, Dr. Susan said, but you're having stress contractions. I'm giving you medication to stop them. You need to be on strict bed rest from now until delivery. No work. Limited activity. And you need to eliminate whatever is causing this stress level. If these contractions continue or your blood pressure doesn't come down, we'll have to induce early or do an emergency C-section. At 30 weeks, that's risky for the baby. As we left the hospital at midnight, I felt the full weight of what Linda had done. She wasn't just attacking me anymore. She was literally endangering my unborn daughter's life. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it. I've filed for grandparents' rights. See you in court. Linda. Attached was a legal document. I scrolled through it, my hands shaking. Linda had petitioned the family court for custody and visitation rights to our unborn child. She was using the CPS report as evidence that Taylor and I were unfit parents. She was claiming she needed legal protection to ensure her grandchild's safety. I looked up the lawyer listed on the document. His retainer fee started at $15,000. We didn't have $15, let alone $15,000. Linda had just trapped us completely. She had stolen the money we would have used to fight her. She had created a legal record of concerns through CPS. And now she was using the system to take our baby. I looked at Taylor, exhausted and terrified in the passenger seat, her hand on her belly, and I realized we were losing. Linda was winning, and I had no idea how to stop her. The next week was the worst of my life. Taylor spent every day on the couch or in bed, barely moving, barely speaking. Her mother Patricia came over daily to help, bringing groceries, doing laundry, trying to keep Taylor's spirits up. But I could see my wife fading. The light in her eyes was dimming. I picked up every extra shift I could at work, trying to rebuild our savings account. My coworkers knew something was wrong, but I couldn't explain. How do you tell people your mother is trying to destroy your family? It sounds insane. I contacted 3 lawyers about the grandparents' rights case. All of them said the same thing. In our state, grandparents could petition for rights if they could prove parental unfitness. Linda's case was weak, but fighting it would still cost between $10,000 and $20,000. None of them would work on contingency. None of them could help without money up front. I was drowning. We were drowning. And Linda knew it. On Friday evening, 2 weeks after the gender reveal disaster, my phone rang. Richard's name appeared on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Ferdinand, we need to talk," he said. His voice was different, serious, almost gentle. "I don't have anything to say to you, Dad. You've made your choice. Just meet me. 1 hour. The diner on Maple Street. Please, son. I think I can help." Against my better judgment, I agreed. I didn't tell Taylor where I was going. I just said I needed to run an errand. The diner was nearly empty on a Friday night. Richard was already there, sitting in a corner booth, looking older than I remembered. He had dark circles under his eyes. His hands shook slightly as he wrapped them around a coffee cup. I slid into the seat across from him and waited. "Your mother has gone too far," he said finally. "I see that now. The CPS call, the money, the legal filing. This isn't about being a grandmother anymore. This is about control and punishment. I've been enabling her for 30 years, and I'm ashamed of myself." I didn't say anything. I wanted to see where this was going. "I want to help you," Richard continued. "I'll pay for the lawyer. I'll cover the money Linda took. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." "Why?" I asked flatly. "Why now? Why after everything she's done?" Richard's eyes filled with tears. "Because I saw Taylor's medical records. Linda left them on the kitchen table. She got them somehow. I don't know how. When I saw what the stress is doing to her, to the baby, I realized this could end in tragedy. Linda is so focused on winning that she can't see she might kill her own granddaughter in the process. I can't let that happen." My chest tightened. Linda had Taylor's medical records. How? That was a violation of privacy laws. But I pushed that aside for now. "What do you want in return?" I asked. "Because there's always a price with you two." Richard looked down at his coffee. "One condition. After the baby is born, after everything settles down, Linda gets to be involved. Not like before. Supervised visits. You control everything. But she needs to feel included. She's not well, Ferdinand. She needs psychiatric help, I know that. But she's also your mother. Hope deserves to know her grandmother, even if it's in limited doses." I thought about Taylor's words. Maybe we should just give her what she wants. I thought about the legal fees we couldn't afford. I thought about my daughter, who needed to stay safely in the womb for at least 8 more weeks. "If you pay the lawyer and return the stolen money," I said slowly, "Taylor and I will agree to monthly supervised visits after Hope is born. 1 hour, once a month, at our house, with both of us present. And Linda has to go to therapy. Regular therapy. We get to see proof." Richard nodded eagerly. "Yes, absolutely. I'll make sure she goes, and I'll get you the money by Monday. I'll hire the lawyer myself and pay him directly. We can draw up a formal mediation agreement. Why should I trust you?" "Because I'm trying to save my family," Richard said quietly. "All of it. Linda, you, Taylor, Hope. This has to end before someone gets irreparably hurt." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. Because I was out of options. We met with Richard's lawyer that Monday. Her name was Angela, and she specialized in family law. She drew up a detailed agreement. Linda would drop the grandparents' rights case. She would repay the $12,750. She would have no contact during the pregnancy. In exchange, after Hope was born, she would receive 1 supervised visit per month, conditions to be determined by Ferdinand and Taylor. Richard signed as the mediating party and financial guarantor. I signed. Taylor, reluctantly, signed. Angela filed the paperwork with the court. Linda's lawsuit was withdrawn 3 days later. Richard transferred the money back into our account. I watched the balance update, relief flooding through me. We could breathe again. For 2 weeks, there was peace. Linda didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't show up at our house. I started to think maybe, just maybe, this could actually work. Taylor's blood pressure stabilized. She was still on bed rest, but the contractions stopped. Dr. Susan was cautiously optimistic. "If we can get you to 37 weeks, we're in safe territory," she said. "Just keep stress levels low." Linda even sent a card, a simple apology card with a handwritten note. "I'm sorry for the pain I've caused. I'm getting help. I just want to be a grandmother to Hope. Can we start fresh after she's born?" Taylor cried when she read it. "Maybe she really is changing," she said hopefully. Maybe the threat of losing everything made her realize what she was doing. I wanted to believe that too. At 33 weeks, Taylor went into premature labor. It was 3 in the morning. She woke me up, her voice panicked. "Something's wrong. Ferdinand, something's really wrong." Her water had broken. We grabbed the hospital bag we'd prepared and raced to the emergency room. Dr. Susan was called in. She examined Taylor quickly. "We're doing an emergency C-section. The baby's heart rate is dropping. We need to get her out now." Everything happened so fast. Taylor was prepped for surgery. I was given scrubs and a mask. We were rushed into an operating room full of people and equipment and bright lights. I held Taylor's hand while they put up the curtain and began cutting. "You're going to be okay," I kept saying, to her and to myself. "Both of you. You're going to be okay." At 3:47 in the morning, Hope was born. 3 pounds, 9 ounces. Tiny and red and screaming. The most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. But they didn't give her to us. The neonatal team took her immediately, checking her, stabilizing her, rushing her away to the NICU. I caught a glimpse of her tiny face before she was gone. "She's breathing on her own," a nurse told us. "That's good, but she'll need to stay in the NICU for a while. Probably 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how she does." Then complications hit. Taylor's blood pressure spiked during surgery. She developed an infection. They had to keep her sedated and on IV antibiotics. She was taken to recovery, and I wasn't allowed to follow. I was alone in a waiting room, torn between my wife and my daughter in 2 different parts of the hospital, unable to be with either of them. I called Patricia. She arrived within an hour, still in her pajamas. Brenda came too, bringing coffee and words of comfort I couldn't quite hear. At 6 in the morning, a nurse came to tell me Taylor was stable and sleeping. I could see her soon. Another nurse said I could visit the NICU. I chose Hope first. I needed to see my daughter. The NICU was quiet and dimly lit. Incubators lined the walls, each one holding a tiny, fragile life. A nurse named Kelly showed me to Hope's station. She was in a clear plastic incubator, wires and tubes attached to her, a tiny knit cap on her head. "You can touch her," Kelly said gently, "through the portholes. She needs to know you're here." I reached through the opening and let my finger rest against Hope's tiny hand. She was so small, so impossibly small, but alive, fighting. "She's doing really well for 33 weeks, Kelly said. "She's a strong one." I stood there, tears streaming down my face, falling in love with this tiny person who I'd only just met. "Mr. Morrison?" Another voice. I turned to see a different nurse, younger, looking uncomfortable. "I need to speak with you about something." I followed her to a small office off the main NICU floor. We had a woman come in about 30 minutes ago, Linda Morrison. She said she was the grandmother and had legal rights to visitation. She showed us a court document. We let her in before we realized. "Well, before we had a chance to check with you. I'm sorry. She's with the baby now." My blood turned to ice. "Show me that document." The nurse pulled it up on her computer. It was the mediation agreement Richard's lawyer had drawn up, except it had been changed. The section about supervised visits after birth now read, "Unsupervised visitation rights, effective immediately, upon birth and grandmother granted medical proxy authority in parental absence." The wording was completely different from what I had signed. This was a forgery. "Where is she?" I demanded. "Station 12. "But, sir, if there's a legal document." I didn't wait. I ran back into the NICU. Station 12. I could see Linda from across the room, holding Hope, rocking her gently, smiling down at her like she was her own child. I walked up, trying to keep my voice calm so I wouldn't disturb the other babies. Linda, put her down. Now. Linda looked up at me with cold satisfaction. Hello, Ferdinand. Isn't she precious? She looks just like you did when you were born. So tiny, so helpless. She needs her grandmother to protect her. You're not supposed to be here. You know that. Put my daughter back in her incubator. The hospital has the legal agreement. I have every right to be here. Richard made sure of that. The trap snapped shut. Richard hadn't been trying to help us. He'd been helping Linda all along. The mediation, the money, the apology, all of it was designed to get us to let our guard down, to sign a document they could alter and use against us. Kelly, the nurse, appeared beside me. Sir, we're going to need to sort this out with hospital administration. In the meantime, both of you need to remain calm. These babies need quiet. Linda stood up, still holding hope. I'm perfectly calm. I'm just bonding with my granddaughter. Is that a crime? Give me my daughter, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Or what? You'll make a scene? You'll attack me in front of witnesses? Go ahead, Ferdinand. Show everyone what an unstable father you are. She was right. If I grabbed hope from her, if I caused a physical altercation in the NICU, it would only prove her narrative. I'd be the violent, unstable father. She'd be the protective grandmother. I was trapped. Linda was holding my premature, medically fragile daughter, and there was nothing I could do without making everything worse. I stood there, paralyzed by the horrifying reality of my situation. Linda continued to rock Hope gently, humming a lullaby, playing her role perfectly. Other nurses were starting to notice the tension. Kelly looked between us, clearly uncertain how to proceed. I need to speak with hospital administration immediately, I said, forcing my voice to stay level. And I need hospital security. Now. Kelly nodded and spoke quietly into a phone. Within minutes, a man in a suit arrived, introducing himself as Marcus Chen from Hospital Risk Management, along with 2 security guards. I explained the situation as quickly and clearly as I could. That woman is my mother. She forged a legal document to gain access to my daughter. I never granted her unsupervised visitation or medical proxy authority. She needs to be removed immediately. Marcus turned to Linda. Ma'am, may I see your documentation? Linda, still holding Hope, pulled a folded paper from her purse with her free hand. Marcus reviewed it carefully, then pulled me aside. Mr. Morrison, this document appears legitimate on its face. It has official court stamps, lawyer signatures, everything. If you're claiming it's forged, we'll need to verify that, which could take time. In the meantime, our legal department is advising that we cannot forcibly remove her without risking a lawsuit, so she can just stand there holding my daughter. And you won't do anything? We're in a difficult position. Both of you are claiming legal rights. Until we can definitively establish who has authority, we have to be extremely careful. I'm sorry. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called Angela, Richard's lawyer. She answered on the 3rd ring, sounding sleepy. Angela, it's Ferdinand Morrison. I need you to tell me exactly what the mediation agreement said about visitation. There was a pause. Ferdinand, I don't understand. You have a copy of the agreement. Just tell me, what were the exact words about Linda's visitation rights? Supervised visits only, once per month, after the infant's birth, at the parent's discretion. Why? What's happened? The document Linda showed the hospital says unsupervised visits and medical proxy authority. She altered it. Angela's voice went cold and professional. That's document fraud. That's a felony. I'm looking at my file now. I have the original signed by all parties. I'll email it to you immediately and send a certified copy to the hospital. How fast can you get here in person? I'm 2 hours away. But I can be there by 9. It was 7:15 in the morning. 2 hours. I had to keep Linda away from Hope for 2 more hours, and she was literally holding my daughter right now. I went back to Marcus. My lawyer is sending the real document. It'll be here in minutes via email. The one Linda has is forged. Marcus nodded. As soon as I receive and verify it, we can take action. But until then, my hands are tied. I turned back to Linda. She was talking softly to Hope, saying things I couldn't quite hear. My daughter, tiny and vulnerable, in the arms of someone who had tried to destroy us. You knew? I said quietly. You and Dad planned this whole thing. The apology, the agreement, the money. It was all designed to trap us. Linda smiled, not looking up from Hope. Your father and I have been married for 38 years. Did you really think he would choose you over me? He's always been loyal where it matters. We both realized that if we couldn't get access to Hope through kindness, we'd have to get creative. Richard is quite good with documents, you know. Years of working with construction contracts taught him how to make small changes that look legitimate. You forged a court document. That's a felony. Prove it. By the time anyone sorts out which document is real, I'll have spent weeks bonding with Hope. I'll have established myself as a caretaker. And you'll look like a paranoid father trying to keep a loving grandmother away from her grandchild. My phone buzzed. Angela's email with the original agreement. I showed it to Marcus immediately. He compared the two documents side by side on his tablet. These are definitely different. But I'm going to need my legal team to verify authenticity. Give me 30 minutes. 30 more minutes of Linda holding my daughter. I called Patricia. She was at the hospital within 20 minutes, having been in the waiting room when Taylor came out of surgery. She walked into the NICU like a force of nature. Linda Morrison, you put that baby down right now, she said in her retired principal voice. The voice that had intimidated hundreds of teenagers over 3 decades. I have every right to be here, Linda said calmly. The hospital has verified my documentation. The hospital is verifying that your documentation is fraudulent, I said. And when they confirm it, you're going to be arrested. For the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in Linda's eyes, but she held on to Hope tighter. You're not taking her from me. She needs me. She needs her parents, Patricia said, who are right here. Now put her back in her incubator before you hurt her. A new nurse approached, an older woman with gray hair and a no-nonsense expression. Her name tag read, Sarah, RN Supervisor, Mrs. Morrison. I need you to place the infant back in her incubator. Hospital policy states that all holding time is monitored and limited for NICU babies. You've been holding her for over 30 minutes. She needs to rest. Linda hesitated. For a moment, I thought she might refuse. But she couldn't refuse a direct medical order without showing her true colors. Slowly, carefully, she placed Hope back in the incubator. I immediately moved to stand between Linda and my daughter. Sarah checked Hope's vital signs, adjusted her blankets, and made notes on a chart. She's doing fine, no distress. But I'm going to recommend that all visitors be limited to immediate parents only until administration resolves the documentation issue. That's unacceptable, Linda protested. I have legal rights. You have a disputed document, Sarah said firmly. Until it's verified, you're not classified as an immediate family member for medical purposes. I'm going to have to ask you to leave the NICU. The security guards stepped forward. Linda looked at them, at me, at Hope. Then she picked up her purse and walked out, but not before turning back. This isn't over, Ferdinand. That baby is my blood. You can't keep me away forever. After she left, I sank into the chair by Hope's incubator and put my head in my hands. Patricia sat beside me and wrapped an arm around my shoulders. What did Richard say when you confronted him? She asked. I haven't called him yet. I can't deal with him right now. My phone rang. Speak of the devil. Richard's name on the screen, I answered. You bastard, I said without preamble. You forged a legal document. You helped her do this. Ferdinand, listen to me. Your mother is not well. She's obsessed. I thought if we could just give her some access, she'd calm down. But she altered the agreement without telling me. I swear I didn't know she was going to do that. You expect me to believe you? She's my wife. I'm trying to protect both of you, but she's gone too far this time. I'm coming to the hospital. We need to talk. Don't. If you show up here, I'll have you arrested too. I hung up and blocked his number. Angela arrived at 8:45. She brought the original documents, notarized and certified. Hospital administration compared them with Linda's version. The forgery was confirmed. Hospital security was notified. A police report was filed. But Linda was already gone, and the damage was done. Over the next 2 days, while Taylor recovered, and I split my time between her room and the NICU, things got worse. Linda began posting on social media photos of hope that she'd taken during those 30 minutes she held her. Long posts about how she was fighting for her granddaughter's safety and how concerned family members were trying to help. The posts went viral in our local community. People who didn't know the full story saw a grandmother being kept from her grandchild, and a young couple who looked unstable and cruel. Comments poured in, most of them supporting Linda. Some were vicious. Those parents look like drug addicts. The grandmother is probably the only stable one. Someone call CPS again. My phone started getting calls from local news stations. Linda had contacted them, offering to tell her story. One station ran a piece titled, "Grandmothers Fight for Access." They didn't contact us for our side. They just ran Linda's narrative. I showed up to work on Monday to find my boss waiting for me in his office. Greg looked uncomfortable. "Ferdinand, I'm getting calls from clients. They saw the news story. They're concerned about having you manage their projects. Corporate is asking me to put you on administrative leave until this blows over." "It's all lies, Greg. My mother is making it all up. I believe you. But perception matters in this business. I'm sorry. Take 2 weeks. Paid. Let this settle down." I was being pushed out of my job because of Linda's social media campaign. Taylor's nursing supervisor called her. Same story. Some of the other nurses saw the posts. "There are questions about your stability. Maybe take your maternity leave early. We'll sort this out later." Linda was systematically destroying both our careers, our reputations, everything. And then Brenda called, crying. She filed a complaint against me at my work. She's claiming I was involved in abusing Hope. I'm suspended pending investigation. "Ferdinand, I'm going to lose my job. I have a mortgage. I have bills. What am I going to do?" I sat in the hospital cafeteria, surrounded by the wreckage of my life, and realized we had lost. Linda had won. She'd taken everything. Our money, our jobs, our reputations, access to our daughter, our peace of mind, everything. I thought about giving up, about just surrendering, about letting Linda have whatever she wanted if it would make this stop. But then I remembered something. Linda always left evidence. She couldn't help herself. She documented everything because she was so convinced she was right. I started looking through her social media posts more carefully, scrolling back through months of content, and I found something. A video from 3 weeks ago. Linda talking to her phone camera, thinking she was being clever. "I've been recording my conversations with Ferdinand and Taylor," she said in the video. "I'm building a case. I have hours of proof that they're unfit. When this all goes to court, I'll have everything I need." Recording conversations without consent. In our state, that was illegal. A wiretapping violation. A felony. I kept digging. I found more videos. Linda and Richard discussing their plan to get custody. Linda admitting she forged the hospital document. Richard explaining how he changed the wording. All of it. Posted publicly on her Facebook page in videos she thought made her look prepared and protective. She had documented her own crimes. I downloaded every video, every post, every piece of evidence. I called Angela. I called the police detective handling the forgery case. I sent them everything, and I started planning my counterattack. The detective assigned to our case was named Marcus Williams. He was probably in his mid-50s, with tired eyes and a patient demeanor. When I showed him the social media videos where Linda admitted to illegal recordings, his eyebrows went up. "She posted these publicly?" he asked, scrolling through the downloads on his laptop. "Every one of them. I think she genuinely believes she's in the right. She can't see that she's confessing to crimes." Detective Williams made several notes. "In this state, recording someone without their consent is a felony wiretapping violation. If she actually has recordings of you and your wife, that's serious. And this video where she and your father discuss forging the hospital document, that's conspiracy to commit fraud. I need to escalate this. How long will it take?" To get a warrant and bring her in for questioning? 24 hours? Maybe 48? Do you have copies of those recordings she mentioned? No, but she probably still has them. Then we'll get a warrant for her phone and computer, too. Mr. Morrison, if everything you're showing me is accurate, your mother is going to face multiple felony charges. For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Not revenge, just hope that this nightmare might finally end. I went to check on Taylor. She was sitting up in bed, looking healthier than she had in days. Her infection had cleared, and Dr. Susan had said she could probably go home tomorrow. "How's Hope?" Taylor asked immediately. "Good. She's gaining weight. The nurses say maybe 1 more week in NICU, possibly 2. She's strong." "Like her daddy," Taylor said softly, reaching for my hand. "I'm sorry I wanted to give up. I was so scared." "I was scared too. I am scared. But I think things are about to turn around." I showed her the social media videos. I watched her expression change from confusion to disbelief to something close to pity. "She's not well," Taylor said finally. "I mean, I know that sounds obvious, but Ferdinand, your mother is genuinely mentally ill. Normal people don't do this. Normal people don't document their own crimes and post them on Facebook. I know. Part of me feels bad for her, but a bigger part of me just wants her gone from our lives forever." Taylor squeezed my hand. "Whatever happens, we're in this together. You, me, and Hope. That's our family. That's what matters." The next morning, I hired a private investigator. His name was Douglas Patterson, and he came highly recommended by Angela. He was in his early 60s, a former police detective who now specialized in family law cases. "I've seen situations like this before," Douglas said when I met him in his office. "Not exactly like this, but similar. Grandparents who become obsessed with controlling their children's families. It usually stems from deeper issues. Narcissistic personality disorder, control issues, fear of abandonment. Your mother checks a lot of boxes. Can you find out if there's a history of this behavior? Other victims?" "That's exactly what I was going to suggest. Give me 72 hours. Douglas called me back in 48. "You need to sit down for this," he said. He came to the hospital and spread out a folder of documents on a cafeteria table. "Your mother has done this before, multiple times. I found court records going back 25 years. A restraining order filed by your father's sister, your Aunt Margaret, in 2000. The filing claimed harassment, stalking, and threats after Margaret had a baby. The restraining order was granted for 3 years. I had an Aunt Margaret? I'd never even heard of her. Linda drove her completely out of the family," Douglas continued. "Margaret moved to Arizona and hasn't had contact with any of you since. I found her. She's willing to testify about her experiences if needed." "What else?" 3 different neighbors in 2 different states filed police reports against Linda. 2 for harassment, 1 for making false accusations to CPS about their children. None of them resulted in charges, but the pattern is documented. Linda has a 30-year history of using the legal system and social services as weapons against people who don't do what she wants. Why didn't anyone stop her? Because she's careful. She never quite crosses the line far enough to get arrested. She makes reports that sound plausible. She presents herself well. And your father has spent decades running interference for her, smoothing things over, paying people off to drop complaints." Douglas pulled out more documents. "This is the most interesting part. I found a psychological evaluation from 15 years ago. Linda was court-ordered to undergo evaluation during a custody dispute involving your cousin. The psychologist diagnosed her with narcissistic personality disorder and borderline traits. She was supposed to attend therapy. According to court records, she went to 3 sessions and then stopped. I stared at the evaluation, black and white proof that my mother was not just cruel, but genuinely mentally ill." "And Richard?" I asked. "Classic enabler. He's been covering for her, lying for her, protecting her from consequences his entire marriage. The forgery of the hospital document is the first time he's actively participated in one of her schemes in a documentable way. My guess is she finally convinced him that the ends justified the means. I took all of this information to Detective Williams. Then I took it to the hospital administration. Then I took it to Angela. This changes everything, Angela said. We can get a permanent restraining order. We can petition the court to bar Linda from ever filing for grandparents' rights again. And with the criminal charges pending, we can make sure she never has access to Hope. The warrant for Linda's arrest was issued on a Thursday. Police went to her house Friday morning. Richard called me an hour later. They arrested your mother, he said, his voice shaking. She's being charged with forgery, conspiracy, wiretapping, and making false reports. They took her phone. They took her computer. Ferdinand. They're saying she could go to prison. Good, I said flatly. She's your mother. She's a criminal. She tried to steal my daughter. She destroyed my wife's health. She ruined our careers. She deserves prison. I made mistakes too, Richard said quietly. I helped with the document. I should be arrested too. You probably will be. Detective Williams said you're under investigation as an accomplice. There was a long silence. Then Richard said, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I am sorry. I thought I was helping her. I thought if we could just give her what she wanted, she'd be happy. But she's never happy. Nothing is ever enough. I see that now. Too late, but I see it. You're right. It is too late. Don't call me again. I hung up. Linda was released on bail 6 hours later. Richard paid it. She was ordered to have no contact with me, Taylor, or Hope. The court issued an emergency restraining order. She had to surrender her passport. She was facing up to 10 years in prison if convicted on all charges. That afternoon, Linda violated the restraining order. I was at the NICU, sitting with Hope, when the nurses' station started buzzing with activity. Security was called. Shouting echoed from the hallway. Then Linda appeared, pushing past a security guard, her hair wild, her eyes desperate. I just want to see her, she screamed. She's my granddaughter. You can't keep me from her. 2 more security guards grabbed her. She fought them. Actually fought them, kicking and scratching. Other parents in the NICU grabbed their babies, pulling them away. Nurses moved quickly to shield the incubators. Linda, leave, I shouted. You're making it worse. You've poisoned everyone against me. I'm the victim here. I'm the one being persecuted. That baby needs me. They dragged her out. She was screaming the whole way, screaming about grandparents' rights, about family, about how I was a terrible son, and Taylor was a manipulative witch. Within an hour, she was arrested again, this time for violating the restraining order, trespassing, and disorderly conduct. The bail this time was much higher. Even Richard couldn't pay it immediately. Linda spent the weekend in jail. That Saturday, Taylor was released from the hospital. We went home without our daughter, which felt wrong in every way. But Hope needed a few more days in NICU. Our house felt empty and haunted. We'd been living in crisis mode for so long that the sudden quiet was almost worse than the chaos. Taylor and I sat on the couch, holding each other, not really talking. Is it over? Taylor finally asked. I think so. Maybe. The criminal case will take months. But she can't come near us without going back to jail. The restraining order is in place. The hospital has banned her permanently. I think we're finally safe. I don't feel safe, Taylor whispered. I feel like she's going to show up any second. Like this is just another trick. I understood. Even with Linda in jail, her shadow hung over us. On Monday, Angela called with news. Linda and Richard are both being formally charged. The prosecutor is pursuing maximum penalties because of the vulnerable infant involved. They're both being offered plea deals. If they plead guilty, they'll avoid trial, but they'll still face probation, fines, restitution, and permanent restraining orders. Richard seems ready to take the deal. Linda is still fighting. What does that mean for us? It means you might have to testify if Linda forces a trial. But honestly, with her history and the video evidence, I don't think she can win. Her lawyer knows it too. My guess is she'll eventually take the plea. And the grandparents' rights case? Dismissed with prejudice. She can never file again. It's over on that front. Small victories. But they added up. On Wednesday, Hope was cleared to come home. Taylor and I drove to the hospital with the car seat we'd installed, and reinstalled 20 times to make sure it was perfect. We dressed Hope in a tiny going-home outfit that was still too big on her 6-pound frame. We took a million pictures. We cried. Walking out of that hospital with our daughter felt like winning a war. At home, surrounded by Patricia, Brenda, and a few close friends, we finally celebrated. Not a gender reveal, not a baby shower, just a quiet celebration of survival. Brenda had been reinstated at her job after the evidence of Linda's pattern of false reports came to light. My boss, Greg, called to offer my job back with a public apology. Taylor's nursing board dismissed all complaints. Our community, once turned against us by Linda's social media campaign, saw the arrest reports and news coverage of the charges. Public opinion shifted. But the best moment came 2 weeks later, when Detective Williams called. Linda Morrison took the plea deal. She's pleading guilty to all charges. She'll serve 2 years probation, pay full restitution, including all your legal fees, attend mandatory psychiatric treatment, and the restraining order is permanent. She can never contact you, your wife, or your daughter. Ever. If she violates it even once, she goes to prison. And Richard? Similar deal. He's also divorcing her, according to his lawyer. He's done. I hung up and told Taylor. We both cried. It was really, finally over. 3 months after Hope came home, life started to feel almost normal. Almost. There were still moments when a knock at the door made my heart race. Still times when Taylor would wake up panicking, convinced Linda had somehow gotten into the house. Trauma doesn't disappear just because the threat is gone. But we were healing. Hope was thriving. She'd gained weight, hit her developmental milestones, and filled our house with baby sounds that made everything else fade into background noise. Patricia came over several times a week, being the grandmother Hope deserved. Brenda was there constantly, embracing her role as the fun aunt. We started therapy, both individually and as a couple. Our therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Allen, helped us process the trauma, rebuild our sense of security, and learn how to set healthy boundaries with people we'd eventually have to interact with as Hope grew older. Richard tried to reach out once, through a lawyer. He wanted to meet Hope, to apologize in person, to be part of her life. Taylor and I discussed it carefully and made a decision together. No. He'd made his choices. He'd enabled Linda for decades. He'd actively helped her try to destroy us. The consequence was losing access to his grandchild. Maybe someday, years from now, we'd reconsider. But not today. The permanent restraining order against Linda gave us the legal protection we needed. But what really gave us peace was knowing that the entire court system, the hospital, and even our community now had documentation of her pattern. If she ever tried anything again, there was a paper trail that would immediately discredit her. 4 months after the plea deal, on a quiet Tuesday morning, Linda violated the restraining order one final time. I was home alone with Hope. Taylor had gone back to work part-time, easing into her nursing shifts. I was on parental leave, bonding with my daughter, learning the rhythms of fatherhood. Hope was napping in her crib when the doorbell rang. I checked the camera we'd installed after everything happened. Linda stood on the porch. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older. She'd lost weight. Her hair was gray where it used to be dyed brown. She looked broken. I didn't open the door. I called the police immediately. Through the camera, I watched Linda wait. She wasn't aggressive. She didn't try to force her way in. She just stood there, occasionally wiping her eyes, occasionally looking at the door like she was hoping I'd change my mind. The police arrived within 10 minutes. Officer Jackson, who'd been involved in the earlier incidents, got out of his car and approached Linda. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw Linda's shoulders sag. She didn't resist when Officer Jackson took her arm. She looked at my door one last time, and I saw her mouth move. "I'm sorry." Then, she was gone. Officer Jackson knocked on my door. I let him in, keeping my voice low so I wouldn't wake Hope. "She's being arrested for violating the restraining order," he said. "This is her second violation, so the judge won't be lenient. She's looking at jail time, probably 6 months. What did she want?" "She said she just wanted to see the baby. She said she's been going to therapy, taking medication, and she wanted to apologize. But the restraining order is clear. No contact means no contact. After Officer Jackson left, I went to Hope's nursery and watched her sleep. She looked peaceful, safe, unaware of the chaos that had surrounded her arrival into this world. I made a silent promise to her. She would never know Linda. She would never be manipulated, controlled, or hurt by the woman who tried to destroy us before she was even born. I would break that cycle. I would be the father who protected her, who stood up for her, who chose her well-being over toxic family obligations. Linda served 4 months in county jail for the restraining order violation. I didn't follow her case closely. I didn't need to. That chapter was closed. Richard tried one more time to reach out, sending a letter through his lawyer. In it, he admitted everything. The enabling, the conspiracy, the decades of looking the other way while Linda hurt people. He said he'd left her, that he was in therapy himself, that he understood if I never wanted to see him again. He asked only that I remember he loved me, even if he'd done a terrible job of showing it. I read the letter once and filed it away. Maybe someday I'd respond. Maybe not. Some bridges, once burned, don't need to be rebuilt. A year after the gender reveal disaster, we threw Hope's first birthday party. It was nothing like the elaborate plans we'd made the year before, just family and close friends in our backyard. Pink balloons, a smash cake, and the people who actually loved us. Patricia, Brenda, Taylor's siblings, a few couples from our parenting group, my boss Greg and his wife. No drama, no hidden agendas, no black balloons filled with ashes and trauma. Hope smashed her cake with pure joy, getting frosting everywhere, laughing that baby laugh that sounds like music. Taylor and I stood together, watching our daughter celebrate being alive, and it hit me. Linda had tried to ruin everything. The gender reveal, the pregnancy, the birth, our careers, our reputation, our family. She'd unleashed every weapon she had, and she'd failed. We were still here, stronger, wiser, more careful about who we let into our lives. Hope was healthy and happy. Our marriage had survived a stress test that would have destroyed weaker relationships. We had real support from people who actually cared about us. As the party wound down and guests started leaving, Brenda pulled me aside. "You did good, big brother," she said, hugging me. "You protected your family. You stood up to her. You broke the cycle. Aunt Margaret called me last week, by the way. She heard about everything through the family grapevine. She wants to reconnect with you. She said she's proud of you for doing what she couldn't 30 years ago. What did she do? She ran away. Changed her name, moved across the country, cut off everyone. She survived, but she lost her entire family in the process. You fought back and won. That's the difference." Later that night, after Hope was asleep and Taylor and I were cleaning up, I found myself thinking about everything we'd learned. I learned that toxic people, even family, even your own mother, will destroy you if you let them. That setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's survival. That sometimes love means cutting people out of your life permanently, because protecting the people who depend on you is more important than maintaining relationships with people who hurt you. I learned that weakness isn't surrender. Strength is standing your ground when everyone tells you to just give in, just make peace, just let it go. Strength is fighting for your family, even when you're terrified, and exhausted, and broke. I learned that chosen family, the people who show up when it matters, means more than blood. Patricia, who defended us. Brenda, who risked her career to support us. Angela, who fought for us. Dr. Allen, who helped us heal. Those were Hope's real family. I learned that you can break generational cycles of manipulation and abuse. It's hard. It's painful. It requires sacrifice. But it's possible. Hope would grow up in a home where love wasn't conditional, where control wasn't disguised as care, where she was valued for who she was, not what she could provide to someone else's ego. Most importantly, I learned that fighting back isn't about revenge. It's about protection. Everything I did, every boundary I set, every legal action I took, was about protecting my wife and daughter. Not about hurting Linda, about stopping her from hurting us. The gender reveal was ruined. We found out we were having a daughter in the worst possible way. But in the end, the reveal didn't matter. What mattered was that Hope was here, safe, loved, and surrounded by people who would protect her. My mother tried to destroy everything. Instead, she showed me exactly what kind of father I needed to be. Nothing like the parents who raised me. Everything my daughter deserves. I walked into Hope's nursery one last time before bed. She was sleeping peacefully, her tiny chest rising and falling steadily. I adjusted her blanket and whispered, "You're safe, little one. I promise. You're safe." And finally, I believed it. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to cut a toxic family member out of your life to protect your own family? How did you find the strength to set those boundaries? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else who's going through something similar. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and realize they're not alone in their struggles. And consider subscribing to the channel for more real stories about family, boundaries, and survival. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone who's struggling to stand up to toxic family members. Sometimes knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. I hope wherever you are, you're safe, you're loved, and you're surrounded by people who genuinely care about your well-being. Take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time.